You have a vision of what you want to achieve, and in your mind, it is absolutely brilliant. The motivation hits you like a sudden strike of lightning, filling you with a rush of pure, unadulterated energy. You can see the finished project, the final result, the new version of yourself standing at the finish line. You gather your tools, you make your grand plans, and you stare at the blank canvas of your potential. Everything is perfectly aligned for you to take that critical first step and begin the actual work. But then, a very quiet, very subtle psychological friction begins to build up in the back of your mind. You look at the monumental mountain of effort required, and your brain immediately registers a threat. It whispers to you that perhaps you should just sit down for exactly 5 minutes to gather your focus. You sit, and instantly, the sharp edge of your ambition is dulled by the heavy, warm embrace of comfort. Welcome to the Thought Vault. Today, we are examining the crushing psychology of wanting something but being entirely unable to start. You label yourself as lazy, staring at the ceiling and drowning in a pool of your own guilt. But laziness is actually a state of doing absolutely nothing and feeling completely at peace with that choice. If you are sitting on the couch agonizing over the fact that you are not working, you are not lazy.
You are experiencing something ancient called acrasia, the agonizing state of acting against your own better judgment. You are trapped in a paralyzing tug of war between your future ambitions and your present desire for immediate relief. Your brain operates on a system of temporal discounting, meaning it values a small, immediate reward far more than a massive, distant one. The dopamine hit of opening a social media app is instant, guaranteed, and requires 0 calories of effort. The dopamine hit of writing a chapter, learning a language, or building a business is months or even years away. So your primitive mind actively builds a fortress of cheap distractions to protect you from the discomfort of effort. You tell yourself you are just researching, just preparing, just waiting for the exact right mood to strike. But the right mood is a myth, an invisible horizon line that keeps retreating every single time you take a step toward it. Meanwhile, the physical space between your intention and your action begins to literally crack wide open. The gap widens as you pile on more layers of digital clutter, endless video streams, and hollow entertainment. You are building a mountain of junk food for your brain, burying your ambition under layers of instant gratification. Every time you choose the screen over the work, the chasm grows deeper, and the work desk looks infinitely further away. You start to feel the physical weight of your unmade decisions wrapping around you like a heavy iron blanket. The more you avoid the task, the more terrifying and insurmountable the task becomes in your imagination. An email that takes 3 minutes to write suddenly morphs into a monstrous, fire-breathing dragon of anxiety. A 30-minute workout transforms into a grueling, impossible marathon that your body simply cannot endure today. You are suffering from task paralysis, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of steps required to reach the finish line. When you look at the staircase of success, you refuse to see the first step. You only stare with dread at the top floor. Your perfectionism is secretly holding hands with your procrastination, convincing you that if it can't be perfect, you shouldn't start. You would rather fail by doing absolutely nothing than risk failing by giving it your absolute best effort. So you stay wrapped up in the heavy iron blanket of comfort, scrolling through the lives of people who are actually doing things. The guilt compounds, stacking up higher and higher, creating a massive chaotic labyrinth of self-loathing. You wonder if your character is fundamentally broken, if you are simply missing the discipline gene that everyone else seems to have. But discipline is not a magical genetic trait. It is a mechanical process of removing friction between you and the work. Right now, you are surrounded by an ecosystem perfectly designed to keep you sedated, distracted, and completely stationary. The digital glowing screens around you are expertly engineered slot machines, stealing your momentum 1 second at a time. You cannot rely on willpower to fight a multi-billion-dollar algorithm designed to hijack your attention span.
Willpower is a battery that drains every single time you have to force yourself to make a difficult choice. By the end of the day, your battery is completely dead, and the mountain of clutter around you has won again. You are stranded on an island of your own making, staring across a vast, terrifying canyon at the person you want to be. The sheer density of the distractions you have collected makes it physically exhausting to even stand up and try. It feels like you are wading through thick, suffocating mud just to pick up a pen or open a fresh document. You keep waiting for tomorrow, convinced that the tomorrow you will wake up with boundless energy and unbreakable focus. But tomorrow you is exactly the same person as today you, just burdened with an extra day's worth of deep regret. The fantasy of the future is the ultimate sabotage of the present, allowing you to excuse your inaction right now. You must stop waiting for motivation to arrive, because motivation is not the spark that starts the fire. Motivation is the heat generated by the fire. It only appears after you have already forced yourself to start moving. Action must come first, breaking through the heavy, suffocating layers of your comfort zone to strike the initial match. The only way to cross this massive, terrifying chasm is to radically and brutally lower your expectations for the day. Stop demanding a flawless, hyper-productive, 10-hour marathon of world-changing, monumental work from yourself. You must give yourself the permission to do a terrible, sloppy, 5-minute version of the task just to break the paralysis. Tell your brain you are only going to write one single sentence, or do one single push-up, or clean one single dish. Your brain will not register this tiny, insignificant action as a massive threat, so the heavy friction simply dissolves. You are slipping past the guards of your own anxiety by disguising the monumental task as something incredibly small. Once you touch the pencil, once you write the terrible sentence, the heavy iron blanket of resistance begins to fall away. You realize that the agonizing anticipation of the work was 1,000 times more painful than the actual work itself. The mountain of digital clutter and glowing screens loses its hypnotic power the moment you engage with reality. You are no longer a hostage to your own comfort. You are the architect of your own momentum, however slow it may be. You start to lay down a simple wooden plank across the massive chasm, bridging the gap between intention and action. It doesn't have to be a grand golden bridge. It just has to hold your weight for one step, for one single minute of effort. The clutter around you begins to fade into the background, no longer a prison, but merely scenery you are walking past. You are shedding the false identity of laziness and recognizing the mechanical truth of your own psychological resistance. Every time you catch yourself slipping back into the plush sofa of infinite scrolling, you now recognize the trap. You see the deep gorge trying to open up beneath your feet again, threatening to separate you from your true ambition. But this time, you have the mechanical tools to stop the earth from cracking, to stitch the ground back together. You understand that the friction will always be there, but you now know how to oil the gears and force them to turn. The grand visions of the future are useless if they prevent you from laying down a single brick in the present moment. You must fall in love with the absolute boredom and the tedious mechanics of simply doing the actual unglamorous work. Strip away the dopamine spikes, silence the algorithms, and step out of the heavy, suffocating armor of your own excuses. The white void around you is not a place of emptiness. It is a canvas demanding that you finally leave a mark upon it. Look at the towering piles of unread books, the tangled charging cables, and the endless sea of meaningless entertainment. They are entirely hollow, offering no real nourishment to the deep,
burning ambition that brought you here in the first place. You must fiercely protect your attention, treating it as the most valuable, irreplaceable currency you will ever possess in life. Every minute spent in the fortress of comfort is a currency stolen directly from the person you are desperately trying to become. Step over the chaotic piles of junk. Ignore the loud, flashing screens demanding you look at them just one more time. Focus entirely on the small, quiet, profoundly simple tool resting on the desk, waiting patiently for your hand. It is just a pencil, just a keyboard, just a pair of running shoes, holding absolutely no power over you until you touch it. The moment you make contact, the terrifying illusion of the impossible mountain completely shatters into dust. You are finally in motion, and the laws of physics state that a body in motion strongly desires to stay in motion. The 5 minutes you promised yourself effortlessly turn into 10, then 20, as the fire of actual motivation finally ignites. You look back at the chasm you just crossed, realizing it was never a physical barrier, but entirely a mental hallucination. The mountain of clutter looks incredibly small from the other side, a sad monument to a fear that no longer controls you. You have successfully hacked your own neurological wiring, bypassing the primitive brain's desperate demand for immediate comfort. The satisfaction you feel right now, the quiet pride of simply doing the work, is 1,000 times deeper than cheap dopamine. It is a dense, heavy, permanent satisfaction that actually builds the structural foundation of your long-term self-esteem. You are proving to yourself, through undeniable physical action, that you are capable of doing hard, uncomfortable things. The label of laziness is finally burned away, replaced by the reality of a person who understands how to manage their own resistance. The thought vault is not just a place to observe your mental traps. It is a place to dismantle them, piece by heavy piece. We examine the overwhelming density of our own excuses so that we can finally find the small, hidden door leading out. The work will never be flawless, the conditions will never be perfect, and you will never feel fully, completely ready to start. Waiting for readiness is the ultimate form of self-sabotage, a clever lie we tell ourselves to justify our continued paralysis. You must embrace the awkward, stumbling, ugly reality of just beginning, allowing yourself the grace to be terrible at first. The white floor stretches out before you, entirely clean, completely devoid of the chaotic clutter that once held you down. You stand firmly at the work desk, surrounded only by the essential tools required to manifest your internal vision into reality. The deep, dark chasm is gone. The heavy iron blanket has vanished, and the plush sofa of infinite distraction has dissolved. You are left entirely alone with your ambition, standing face to face with the quiet, demanding dignity of the task itself. Take a deep breath, silence the echoing doubts in the back of your mind, and make the conscious choice to simply begin. The hardest part is officially over. You have successfully survived the psychological agony of wanting it and finally started. Keep moving forward, protect your momentum, and I will see you in the next entry of the Thought Vault.